Thinking Aloud. Conversations on the leading edge of knowledge and discovery with psychologist Jeffrey Mishlove.
And he's written a wonderful, little pamphlet called Tales of Prison Life.
I see.
Where he talks about the fact that he'd been receiving some messages that he needed to take a break from politics and concentrate on his inner life. But he couldn't. He was too attached to it.
Too engaged, too attached, and at the same time experiencing extraordinary states of consciousness and potentially some paranormal experiences.
Right.
A highly educated man with a curiosity to explore these things more seriously, and already under the tutelage of a real yogi.
Right. So in the prison, it's as if a number of new dimensions were opened up for him. And there he claims, two other very major experiences which supplemented that first experience. So this Maya that we're talking about, that he then started seeing that this world of projected forms was not unreal, but that this Maya, this power of the creative power of whatever higher dimension we're talking about, actually was formulating itself as everything there was. So everything was really a kind of a vibrational mode of that divine power, the Shakti that he called it later. So all was, and he gave it using the Vedantic tradition. The first experience he had, he called it the passive Brahman, Brahman which is passive. And then the second experience he had, where he saw that everything is really a form of the Brahman, he called it the active Brahman.
Now, let's define Brahman for our viewers who may not be familiar with that term. It gets confusing because there's Brahma and Brahman.
Yes. Brahman is a term that comes to us from the Upanishads. And it's the term they use for reality as the only conscious thing there is. It's a kind of a universal and transcendental consciousness, which is the only reality. Everything else that we may talk about, like the creatures, the objects, all these cosmic realities are all forms of Brahman. There is nothing else than Brahman. That's the Vedantic term. So for him, there was an aspect of Brahman to which everything that we see was only illusionary. It was only observed as a projection. So it was passive. And then he was to have a third very major realization, which is that immanent in every being and every entity in the universe, there was this supreme dimension, the fourth dimension, if you want to call it that, was present as a being in everybody. And this is a theistic kind of experience, and he was not a very theistic person. But by then, he was receiving some kind of intimations from a god, I mean the Brahman as a person, and he was to see that person as Krishna. So in this third very important experience, he was to see, he was in the prison, and he was to see that everybody was Krishna. The judge was Krishna playing judge. The prosecuting counsel was Krishna playing the jury was Krishna as jury. So he had this experience, and it followed him, so that even inanimate objects like the walls of the prison, the grating, the tree outside, he saw them all as Krishna. And so this was a third very major, and he used his understanding, his highly developed philosophical mind, to think of these as three dimensions of reality.
So